Good whatever to you, whenever you are watching, and welcome to Chatting with Stand-Up Comics. Today, my guest is Kaelin Clements. Welcome, Kaelin.
Hello.
And you've been a stand-up for about 2 years now. I
Yes.
believe we're coming up on your 2-year anniversary. I saw it in your post you celebrated your 1-year anniversary not too far from here.
Yep.
And we were running kind of in similar crowds in community college. Were you a theater kid? I didn't see you in the theater program. I was a late blooming theater kid, but I didn't see you participating. Was that something you did in high school?
So I did. I did do theater in high school. I dabbled a little bit in college, but then it just got too busy. I was a design major and just ended up kind of following that path and not doing extra things.
And I just fell absolutely into theater. I had stage fright. That was something that I didn't know. I didn't think I would be able to do. Kind of. I actually wrote in one of my first English essays was about how I'm interested in being an actor, but I don't know if I could do it. And yeah, absolutely love the theater program. Writing was my first passion, so putting those together into stand-up comedy. Actually, we pitched to the theater director, "Hey, can we do a cover stand-up comedy night?" He wasn't a big fan of that, so well, let's just do it ourselves. And you're coming up in the similar scene that I was in Maryland. I saw that your base is at the Church of Satire in Hanover.
Yes, that is correct. That's where I started. So I started doing stand up at Church of Satire, and I stayed at Church of Satire for probably for the first year. Well, I guess a little under the first year that I did. So like maybe the first 10 months I only did there. I didn't really branch out. I was like terrified to branch out. I would go to like open mics and I wouldn't talk to anyone because I'm like awkward and weird. Like and
Uh,
then I just so I ended up doing that, and then at Church of Satire, like they gave me my first show. Jim Bryan, who owns it, Tom Nutty and Darnell kind of put me on my first show, and then from there I was like, I'm just gonna push forward and try to keep making other connections.
I get that. With me, once I found my room, debuted at Magoobies, the big, because I didn't
Yes.
know where to go for an open mic, and it was through Magoobies that we found the Coco Lane open mic in
Okay.
Ellicott City, ran by Eric Woodworth, who is a big name in the community.
Hilarious.
He's come
Yes.
up. I see he's regular stepping in on the 98 Rock morning show. Tommy Simbazo. At
Yes.
the time I called like the best local comedian in Maryland, and I see that they've got a comedy duo now.
Yes.
Bussy, I believe it is, Eric
Yes.
Woodworth and Tommy Simbazo. So it's good to see they're still around. And like as you said, going somewhere new and keeping to yourself. That Coco Lane was like a safe space of going, doing your comedy, and being part of the crew, having that friendship, and
Yes.
yeah, branching out from there, especially with like bringer shows. Like I'm just a guy. I don't think I can bring anybody over and over again to hear this again.
Yes. That is so hard too because it's like obviously when you're at mics you're like trying to work out your material but then when you're actually doing paid shows you're like doing the stuff that you know that works, right? So then once you've done the stuff that you know that works, you have like a solid 15-20 minutes, but then when you keep having shows, people keep coming and they're like, we've heard this joke. Like my mom has like said like she'll come to anything, but she's also like, I have heard all of your jokes. And I'm like, you can stop coming whenever you want. Like
That's something that I realized I wasn't a good stand-up comic with, because I myself got tired with the material after a few months, and
yes.
it was still in the oven when I took it out and just threw it in the trash. And
Yes.
you really have to stick to that. I imagine you were you able to see Eric Myers when he was in the area?
No, I was not.
He unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but he's someone who I pointed to as like he had a bit about putting in an application to work at Taco Bell. How did you hear about Taco Bell? Because I live on Earth. That one little joke, he was able to find another tag, another tag, another tag, and he was out in
Yes.
Los Angeles at the same time I was. And when he had a 15-minute set, all he needed to do was go into the Taco Bell application bit, and that's his 15 minutes because he found something else to add, something else to add.
Yes.
As
Yes.
I think that's really where I noticed, you know what, this isn't for me. I've seen him do this when it was a joke, and it's his 15 minutes when he has a 15-minute slot now. So
Absolutely.
yeah, developing those bits, I would just get tired with them too quickly. Whereas,
I think
as you
yeah.
said, your mother has heard them all because you're still developing them. Uh,
Yeah, well, like but at the same time, my mom will even say sometimes like, "Oh, I've never heard that part." And like, the people who have seen me a couple of times, like they'll even say like, "I like what you did with that," because that is something that you do, right? Like you take a joke and then you might say that joke the same way over and over for a while, but then something like pops up or you just have something when you're on stage that you just say off the cuff and then people are like, "That's funny." And then you keep it and you keep trying and trying new things. Like the way that I always work, like a lot of open mics, sometimes people hear the same material because I'm working new ways to say it. Like, how do I roll this bit into this bit? How do I move forward into it? How do like different taglines in between, different things in between? Like you just find how to build your set so that it's cohesive, you can keep going. Some people don't do that. Some people just like have jokes and they don't have to roll into them. They don't have that transitionary material. I try very hard to make it like not I guess not a monologue, but like, just ways that it all connects and makes sense. And you'll try to pull the crowd in. Sometimes the crowd has different things that can like kind of help you roll into it, but it is just like constantly reworking. And you will like I do get tired of like saying the same material, but at the same time, that it works. So like you're like, well, I'll just use it. It's fine. Like it is just one of those things where you'll probably be saying the same jokes for like a year or more. Like
oh,
you'll
easily.
probably be like working
Yeah,
the
keep
same
saying
stuff.
those jokes until you release a special or
Yeah. Yeah.
put it on iTunes, because that's the only time that they can absolutely positively be thrown away if you're
Yes.
serious about stand up, is once you put them on a recorded medium where the masses can hear them, then it's dead to your act.
Exactly. And that's something that I struggle with like social media, right? Because TikTok, Reels, all that kind of stuff, like you want to draw people in and like the internet is obviously a way to make those connections throughout the world really, but it's at the same time I'm like, do I want to put all of my material out on the internet where then you're going like people are coming to your shows and like I watched 10 reels and now I've watched all your material. Like so it's like I struggle with like sharing my material that's not just like a crowd work material. Like because crowd work obviously it's never going to be the same wherever you go. It's not going to be the same thing that you say to someone, that person's not going to have the same response. But when you're sitting there trying to like get material out there, you question sharing that because you're like, if I share it, are people going to get sick of it? That like they've heard this joke already. They come, they watch my 20-minute set and they've only heard one new joke. Like, I don't know. I struggle with that.
The way you put that actually reminded me of Mitch Hedberg's albums. He released one with the same joke, and he flat out put it up. I had this joke on my last album, but I thought of something new, and I believe it was on his third album as well, where he's like, "Here's a remix of that joke I've already told twice on a recorded
Yes.
medium." And my cousin, he lives around Maryland. He's definitely got the aptitude to do stand up. He's got the stage fright, and as he was telling me his notes, I'm like, this is pretty. This is ready to just put into form. And as you were saying, I also like performing for the room of the other comics. So when you have this bit that they all know already, but they're going to be kind and still give you a giggle in the parts that they initially thought were funny, with
Yes.
the alternative punchlines, because sometimes it's a this or that.
Yes.
When you set up A, B, and knock it down with C, sometimes C squared. And yeah, that's a little fun variation for the other comics in the room of, oh yeah, I know this bit, and you'll get a
Yes.
legit laugh out of them. They're ready to give you the kindness laugh when, oh,
Yes.
that's new and that's good.
Which sometimes comics don't even give you the kindness laugh. Like I've gotten off a set where it's like an open mic set and I walk off stage and like I barely got any laughter. And then people are like, that was a good set. That was a good set. And I'm like, no one laughed. But it's like at the same time, I think that comics take in the material different than like a person in the crowd would, right? Like they take in that material in like a respect way where they're like, yeah, that was a good joke, but they're not laughing. And it's like, well, that at least is my experience, is that a lot, like sometimes they don't laugh and they're like, you're set so well, like you're so well polished, you do this, you do that. And you don't get that same laughter because when it's a room full of comics in an open mic, it is harder to get their like laughter.
There was when I was in Burbank seeing someone I knew, there was an opener. Like as a comic, the whole room can be laughing, but you see that one guy that
Yes.
isn't, and he really focused on me. And since I'm a comic, I'm a tougher audience than a lot of these people
Yes.
in that comedy club. So at some point, he got me with something that really cracked me up, and he came over and gave me a high five. He was like, "You were a hard nut to crack, man."
Yes. And that is like, it is hard when you're sitting in another like room. And as like I try to laugh, but like sometimes I think I'm laughing. And I remember a comic like pointing me out, being like, you haven't laughed at anything I said. And I'm like, I've been laughing all night. So then it's like I have to wonder like what my like resting laugh face looks like. Do I look like miserable the whole time? Or am I like, because I'm not like wildly cackling, like, is there a problem?
That's actually something I learned in acting. There's some people who had trouble doing a fake laugh, and I actually have a variety of fake laughs. I think I can thank the Howard Stern show. When they would have horrific news stories, they would have sound drops of Jackie the Joke Man, and the voice actor Billy West used to sit in on the Stern show for a while, and they would actually analyze, hey Billy, can you do Jackie's laugh? So studying, actually, that's how a lot of my impressions came about. I'm doing an impression of someone doing an impression. So like the Krusty the Clown guffaw. I learned how to do that through the Billy West impersonating Jackie the Joke Man's. And that actually is very hard for some people to put on that fake laughter. Like I think I give the kind giggle. That may
Yes.
be what you were putting on there.
Yes.
Was the kind where
Yeah.
you can't see it very well from stage.
Yes. And I'm sure that's what it was. Like he's just like looking at me the whole time. And it is hard when you're like up front. If there's someone like front and center and they're not laughing the whole time, their arms are crossed, they're just staring at you the whole time. And then at the end, they're like, you were really funny. And I was like, was I? Like, was I really funny? Because
There
it
was a
didn't seem like you.
Seinfeld episode with a lady that doesn't laugh. She just said that was funny. My dad, after his divorce, dated someone who would say that's so stinking funny, and I didn't realize how much that really bothered me. Like I totally associated with Jerry Seinfeld after that's so stinking funny. It's like a removal process. Well, if it's funny, why are you telling me? Why don't you have a reaction?
Yes. Yes. And I think that like I do think that some people just find humor that way or they deal with humor that way. And it is hard when you're in a room of people who are dealing with humor that way. Like, or you like, I don't know. I think that like it's hard because like the levels of laughter kind of tell you like where your next joke goes, where this is happening, but if you're finding people are finding that you're funny, but you have no idea, that makes it very hard.
Something also that I noticed is I can pick someone that has been to a comedy class who the teacher gave them a formula of how to write a joke. Here is A plus B equals C.
Yes.
I think it was the same room in Burbank where I saw a woman who's had da 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 da, and I was able to figure out that comedy formula so quickly that by the time she got to, so I just alienated the most reliable man in my life, and I'm like, it's the mailman. And she keeps going, da 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 da. It's the mailman. Da, 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 da. It's the mailman. And
Yes.
now my mailman won't deliver to my house anymore. Yeah, I knew.
Yes.
You were taught a formula. You did not go out and figure out how did you first your first time doing stand up? Did
Yeah.
you just come with stories, or did you like take notes before going up?
No. So I guess I came with like life experiences. Most of my jokes are like built around things that have happened to me, and then I just like talk about them, more of like a story-based telling. So like the first time that I ever went up and did stand up, I talked about like my childhood nickname. So like I still kind of do this bit, but I don't use it as much anymore, but like my childhood nickname was Millstream Dreams. And do you know what the Millstream is?
Millstream, was that a nursery,
It's
a tree nursery?
No, it was a strip club, okay? So, like
Long Millstream. Oh, Millstream, yes, of
yeah.
course. West Virginia, I believe.
It's actually in Baltimore. It's in Woodlawn,
Oh,
like
I'm thinking of Wagon Wheel. Wagon
yeah.
Wheel is the one I'm thinking of in West Virginia.
Yeah, so, that was, like, the first bit that I ever did. I talked about how my parents called me that as a child, and they had, like, no hope for me that I was gonna be anything more than a stripper, and I just, like, kind of went into this whole thing about it, and, like, that was, like, the first bit that I ever did, and then I just talked, like and that's kind of where I started and, like, built off of it. When I started that, they had given me, like, this nickname that was, like, Kaelin the Stripper, because I don't think anyone was actually listening to me. They just, like, heard stripper and heard some other things, and then everyone thought that I was a stripper for probably, like, the first 10 months that I did stand up. Like, people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, you're used to performing all the time." And I'm like, "Well, no."
And you did have more of a look that they would at the time. I believe you had the hair that was multicolored,
Yes. Yes.
blue and or pink, and you're very tattooed. So they hear
Yes.
stripper, they see your hair and your tattoos. Oh, hello,
Yes.
stripper.
Exactly. So for a long time, I was Kaylin the stripper, and then like eventually they like dropped it off me. Like when they all realized, like, oh, she's not really a stripper. Like this was just like a weird bit that she did, and I ended up getting that like tagline eventually dropped off. And I think it was like more of a respect thing too. Like after a while, they're like, okay, we'll like take her seriously. But when you first start, like
It's
it
kind of
is
a
a lot
hazing.
of, huh?
Kind of a hazing.
Yes.
You were able to survive Kaylin the stripper. You have graduated beyond stripper.
Yes, exactly. And that is what it was. It was like a hazing, being accepted into the fraternity, I guess. I don't know, or sorority. I don't well, more fraternity, because I guess more men do comedy than women in my experience of what I've seen. But it
And you
is
actually graduated from stripper in a good term. Usually, when someone graduates from stripper, it's turning into a hooker. So, thank goodness it wasn't that type of graduation. Uh,
yes.
the hazing, I love hearing Patrice O'Neill. He made a lot of appearances on the Opie and Anthony show. A lot of them are on YouTube, and those guys would haze the hell out of new people in New York. Like Patrice and his buddies would sit front row, as you said, just absolutely deadpan, arms crossed. Like you sure you want to be here? Like absolutely testing the new guys, or just fucking with each other. And
Yes.
yeah, as you said, a fraternity, very much, because it is a lot of dudes, so
Yes.
many dudes.
It is. And like I feel like when you have a name like Kaylin the stripper, you get people that come up after you all the time and absolutely just like annihilate you. And it was ways that like I found ways to kind of play into it and work with it and be like, I don't care that you guys are calling me Kaylin the stripper. I'm gonna use this now. And like I would use it because I make dance costumes for a living. So I'd be like, I don't actually strip for a living, but I do support the future strippers of America. And I would like, talk about that. Like
I'll be selling tassels after the show.
exactly. Like just, like you learn to just like go with it. And I also think that that gives you the respect of other comics because you're just like you're not being offended by it. You're not sitting there like, how dare you guys like tell me I'm a stripper or, whatever. Like you're just like, you know what? Let's roll with it. I will dig in. I will be Kaylin the stripper if you absolutely want me to be.
There was a female comic on the scene when I was there. I met her at a show she wasn't performing at, and it was seeing her act that absolutely made me be like, I don't think I'm attracted to you anymore. I absolutely didn't enjoy it at all. Told a lot of personal stories, and at the end of the true ones, guys, that happened. No, don't tell us that. when you're making hyperbole, now we know when you're full of shit. And
Yeah.
actually, don't do a hyperbole there. Take it a step further. Why not? If that already happened,
Yes.
that sticks in my mind so much. Guys, that happened. Said it multiple times during an 8 or 10 minute set, and it just absolutely crushed my heart with every guys. That happened.
Was it because of like the content? Like it was just so like awful that you were like, oh no, and you felt bad for her? Or like what made it so like terrible?
Like now I don't respect what you do. I see you doing it and I don't respect it. That's kind of the route that my mind went. Like, oh no, I was ready to be supportive of you and be a comedy couple. No, I can't be a comedy couple with material like this. No, no, no.
If you're like a comedy couple though, like you do get a lot of shit for that. I will say that. Like people do not like other comics being like, "Oh, you're dating another comic," cuz I am like I date another comic currently, and people think it's like the most gross thing that you could ever do is date another comic. Like you get so much shit for it.
It's so much mental illness all in one place. Two
I think
comics
that's what it
dating each
must
other.
be.
Well, also you've got the dudes that are just fucking jealous. Like you were supposed to be mine. I I
Oh,
don't know. I don't know if I should say his name. I'm going to talk a lot of shit about him, possibly.
okay.
But yeah, on the scene back in the day, Kim Ambrose was one of the very
I
few
know who that
female
is.
comics, and yeah, a friend of mine. When she started dating, oh, I forget which guy it was from Color Me Funny, but like he totally just flipped on his opinion of her, and you could see that he was just completely jealous. Like I'm the handsome one. Look at everyone else. I'm the handsome comic. Why isn't Kim dating me? This is bullshit.
Yeah, I do think that like that gets hard. I think it's also hard like being a female comedian because people will like guys will come up to you after shows and they'll be like, "Oh, if you come to this open mic and I'll help you craft your comedy." Like I almost feel like I got nagged a lot when I first started because guys would like come up and be like, "You could be better. Like I see potential. Let me help you." But like they're not doing that to other dudes.
I,
They just want you
I
to like
and I actually did enjoy that. Coming, that was actually part of the camaraderie at Coco Lane. Was talking about what if this tag, what if that tag.
Yes,
So,
yes.
like as a writer, I do enjoy that. I took
Yes.
a writing class at the Upright Citizens Brigade in Los Angeles, and it was a lot of women. Like the Hal Rudnick was the teacher. Love that guy. I think Screen Junkies he's part of, but he was amazed. It was 9 women and 3 men in the class. It was like this is one of the rare cases where it's not a lot of white dudes. And it was through that I learned I do enjoy working with women creatively. It's a different perspective,
Yes.
and it was during that class specifically that I noticed like I have a difficult time when writing scripts to speak in a female voice, and a lot of women have that same problem with men, just not having that life experience. Having
Yes.
dialogue of someone of the opposite sex is difficult. So I did enjoy that process of working with someone that has absolutely different experiences with me through that class of a whole bunch of ladies.
Yes. Yes. And like it is cool. Like now as like now I will take people that I respect, like people that I know aren't just trying to like nag me or do weird things or date me or whatever. I will take that into consideration. Like if I come off of a set, this happened, I guess, a couple weeks ago. One of my friends, Craig, like he was like, "Hey, when you do this joke, if you add this to it, this would like really send it home." And after, like, I kind of played with his idea a little bit and I did it at a show that I had like the next week. I was like, let me try this. And I did it and it went over so well that it's like, yeah, if I like respect you as a comic and I love you as a person, I will absolutely take your feedback and I will say, yeah, let me roll with it. Let me see how it works. Like it is cool to be able to work with other comics and just like see what would they do with it? How would they go? Like, and kind of just give that credit where that credit is due because we all are just kind of like working together to figure out how our sets go, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we're working together passionately because
Yes.
in stand up, it's no money or little money for a long time. And
Yes.
we were discussing before going on air. That's one of the reasons I got into acting more in Los Angeles, because I was just some schlub off the street. Some schlub off the street gets minimum wage and lunch. Eventually, I worked my way up to actor, so mid-20s an hour and a lunch. So
Yes.
nuts to you, stand-up comedy, working my ass off. Actually, as well, just trying to develop a very personal story that was meaningful to me, and I was able to get so little out of it, and I got back into script writing. I was able to come up with a pilot that was just very important to me. And once again, the person, I guess, who will go unnamed, who I moved out to Los Angeles with two guys. One of them, he immediately started having like regrets. Like he did, I don't want to live this kind of fraternity style, three guys to a room, doing this grind. And he found a wife. He got a kid. The other one, he really absolutely killed us collaborating together, because let's go to Los Angeles, let's make some sketches. So when you've got three people and one is shooting down everything, guys, I know what's funny.
Yeah.
Well, by process of elimination, that means you're funny and we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. So
Yes.
I guess we won't collaborate anymore. And at some, like, I really enjoyed collaborating with that person. We made a pilot together in Maryland. When I go back and look at it, it's solid. The camera work and the lighting is fucking awful. When he talked years later about entering it into some competitions. The camera never moves. That's something that I learned. We just plopped the camera down, and for just a bunch of guys doing it over a long weekend, it's fine. But for competitions, it looks like fucking garbage. Good material, and
Yes.
it was like I would have been a good writer and producer in the combo. He would have been the great director, but his head was up his ass. And yeah, eventually I wanted to bring him in. Like, we work well together, but how do I make him think that this was his idea so that he won't kill the project? Well, how about we just don't invite him?
That's
Well,
fair.
just
That's
won't
fair.
be part of the process.
Yeah. I totally get that. Like, just finding people that you like to work with, or and you don't always have to take that kind of stuff to heart either. Like, if someone doesn't think that what you did is funny, comedy is a subjective thing, right? So sometimes you'll walk into a room, you get no laughter, and then other times you'll do that same exact set somewhere else, the whole room's dying. So, like, I do think that sometimes it does, like, content, where you are, how you're playing to it, like, it
Yeah,
is
reading the
different.
room is
Yes.
very important. And I was okay with that. I'd say I was weakest at crowd work. I was actually very surprised when doing primarily black rooms. I thought they were going to hate my material, but
Yes.
it went over well most of the time. You're never batting 1,000, but a good
Yes.
amount of the time, I was like, I really thought I had white folk only comedy. Hooray!
I had the same, like, thing happen to me. There was, like, one room that I walked into, and I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna hate me. Like, they're gonna absolutely hate me." And then I went up there and they loved me, and it was great. And it was like it was a very pleasant experience. Like, because you always go in and you give your 100% no matter what. Like, even if you think it's gonna go bad, you just say, "You know what? I'm gonna put all of my energy into it. I'm gonna do what I do. And if they love me, they love me. If they hate me, they hate me." And that's, like, the best way that you can go into it.
You own the stage. I actually had a job interview yesterday and spent a surprising amount of time talking about stand-up comedy, including Bernie Mac. Are you familiar with his legendary "I ain't scared of you motherfuckers" set?
Yeah.
I fucking love that. I believe it was the Apollo, and like six or so comedians in a row. The audience just ate alive in his "I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. This is my stage." Like, having that process, that thought that this is my stage. I can do whatever the hell I want on this stage. Gilbert Gottfried, he would antagonize audiences that that were just not buying into it. I think he would do like Andy Kaufman shit. Andy Kaufman like read The Great Gatsby. I think I heard
Yes.
that Gilbert Gottfried would just start reading the paper. He's legally required. He's contractually required to be up there for a certain amount of time.
Yes.
But there's nothing when the audience is turned on him. There's nothing that says you can't just read the newspaper.
Yeah, I mean that's true though. That's true. I mean, I've never tried that, but maybe I should. Maybe I should going forward. But I also think it's important because like I watch a lot of comics who like the minute that someone doesn't laugh at their jokes, they start like yelling at the audience. And that's one thing that like I just like I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna be like, F you guys, you don't know what's funny, because it's like it's my job to entertain you. And if I'm not entertaining you, that's probably my fault. Like I probably needed to figure out what you guys thought was funny.
I would default to, well, I thought it was funny anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the go-tos is pointing to one guy. That guy got it. That guy liked it. I don't recall ever doing that, but well, I thought that was funny.
Yes.
That was my acknowledgement of the huge bomb I just laid.
Yes. And sometimes when you do that, like the audience can tell that you're like laughing at yourself, making a joke with yourself, and they will laugh at the aftermath of it sometimes. Like when you like, you know, if you bring up that like, oh, that was awkward because of blah, 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 or whatever, like they can laugh with you at the fact that you just bombed. And I think that that also can help sometimes.
Have you been to the Magoobies comic of the month? They do a comic of the year where each winner, the owner of Magoobies hated my comedy. Jeffrey Jones was the host, and after the show, he talked about like how he thought what I did was great. He really wanted to push me to the finalists. I never once made it to the finalists of Magoobies Joke House because the owner fucking hated my material.
So I haven't done Magoobies yet. That's definitely one that I'm like, I want to try out, and I want to look into that because they do their Mike Wits End, like that's like right. It's Wits End Saloon that's like attached to Magoobies. They have a mic there on Tuesdays and Thursdays that like I haven't gotten out to that one yet, but I would really like to. So
I do know one thing that I did that the owner didn't like. They told us to ask the audience how they're doing and be. I'm the sixth guy up. I'm the eighth guy up. There's been so many people that, hi, how you doing? As an audience member, I'm fucking tired of telling you how I'm doing. And I actually worked that into my bit of like, so how's everyone doing? Don't you just hate it when people say hello in a question like that? I don't think he appreciated that either.
I mean, it is like, I think that is just like one of the default things when you walk out and you just say like, how's everyone doing tonight? And it's like, most of the time they cheer. And I'm like, do you really feel that way though? Do you like, are you having a good time? Like,
I just became acutely aware of that when I saw so many people in a row and the audience is getting less enthusiastic with the reply every single time. Oh,
yeah.
Also, I was just having a terrible day at work one morning when someone asked me, hey, how's it going? You really want to know? You serious?
So, you're like, I'll tell you exactly how it's going.
That was my opener for quite a while. Hey, Bill, how's you doing? Well, I'm no longer contemplating suicide. I'm now in the planning phases.
That's true. You know, that's how we feel sometimes. And that, like, you're right. Cause like sometimes even at mics, like you end up being like the 30th person. And it's like, once you're the 30th person, sometimes there's not even an audience left at that point.
Oh yeah, I started watching Earl Skakel do his live streams. We've got a few mutual friends that I knew in Los Angeles, and he talks about going up at the Comedy Store at 4 a.m. and there's like a person there.
Yes.
I did the Comedy Store like once. It's funny, before I ever did it, when I was doing a showcase, the host didn't have my credits. You've seen him at the Comedy Store because just fucking everyone has done the Comedy Store. It may be at 4 a.m., but everyone's done the Comedy Store in Los Angeles.
Yeah, like I do, like that is like one of the things that is the hardest, especially when you're first starting. Because obviously, like when you're not first starting out, like you've been doing it for a while, like usually you'll get bumped on the list a little bit if they know that like what you're going to say is good material, because they want that audience to stay. Obviously they want that audience to like enjoy what they're watching, at least in the beginning. But like when you first start out and you're just like, they put you last on the list like everywhere you go, and you're sitting down and it's the end of the night, and you have like one singular comic who was like nice enough to stay through the entire show, and they're trying to be supportive, but you know they're just like sick of it, and they're they don't care. Like that's rough being. And like I think that everyone as like a stand-up comic has even been it to like a show where no one bought tickets to that show. It's some like super underground show. There's two people in the audience, and you just have to still put on the same show even though there's only two people watching you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've had to do that. I shoot, lost my train of thought there for a moment. So sorry about that.
No, you're
Working
fine.
on my working on my interview skills, folks. I give myself a solid C. I think I was at a B plus up until that little flub up. Oh yes, I remember what I wanted to talk about: the nightmare experience. Stavros Halkias is probably the most famous of the guys
Yes.
who was in the group with coming up. And actually, his podcast, Come Town, with Nick Mullen and the other guy. Sorry, other guy, you're the other guy, Friedman. I actually learned about it through a friend in Los Angeles. I was like, "Oh wow, this is cool." That this one of my random drinking buddies in Los Angeles is telling me how popular one of my old running buddies from Maryland is doing.
Yes.
And listening to a few episodes of Come Town, they asked, "Do you remember Walt?" And I was like, "Holy shit! Of course I remember Walt." So Walt debuted at Magoobies the next time after I did. But when I forget who the host was, Jim Florentine, he was the host. And actually, what was funny about that is they had all the open micers in the green room along with Jim Florentine. He's like, guys, and and they and the open micers not be in the room where I'm preparing. And I'm like, yeah, that is a poor decision on your guys' part. But the next time, one of my buddies went up for the very first time. Walt from Edgewood brought every person he knew, over 100 people, and did not tell the club. It was a clusterfuck. And then a few months later, I see Walt at Coco Lane, and it's like, oh, it's that guy. And just talking with my buddy, and then my ears perk up when he when at one of his jokes. You know, they say, oh, actually, his delivery was kind of like this. You get all over the mic, and you can't really understand it, but you kind of understand it. But I was able to make out through that mumblefuck that he was saying. So they say that America is the greatest nation in the world, but how do we know that? Hmm? How do we know there's not a nation where you get a blowjob for a dime and there's a guy who's just giving out dimes? That's a fucking Greg Giraldo work. Joke. He's working out Greg Giraldo's material at an open mic. This isn't even plagiarism to get through to a big crowd. He is working on plagiarism of Greg Giraldo. This is fucking nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that like a couple of times where it's like jokes that it's like those jokes, those dad jokes that like everybody knows. And then someone just goes up for the first time and they just recite all of the dad jokes that they've ever heard, you know, for 5 minutes. And then they walk off and it's like, well, none of that was your material, but sure, I guess it works. I don't know.
Only Jackie Martling is allowed to do that. He claimed the right on that, and he is allowed to do that. No one else. And the storytellers, seeing the dads who are great storytellers. Actually, my brother was one of them. I really encouraged my brother to go up and do stand up, and he was fucking awful. He had this bit that just went on, and the payoff was so awful. It doesn't always translate. That person that's funny in real life, like they might be better at podcasting. That banter person.
Yes.
who you encourage to go up on stage, and then it's like, ooh, yeah, this fun story is fun in a communal setting, not a
Yes.
stage performance setting.
Yes. I think that happens a lot. Like, and like, I encourage anyone to try. Like, anyone can try, anyone can go up there and do it. If you think you want to, go ahead. I probably wasn't interesting to listen to for the first few months that I did it, because I do think that it's finding your rhythm, finding your niche, finding like how your jokes need to be laid out, finding what's funny for you when you say it, right? So like the people who go up once or twice, like maybe they're just rambling and they don't have their flow yet. So I think that it is like it takes a while to find that craft, and if you don't have the patience to like really work it out and be like, okay, I know that these premises are funny, but they may not be funny just outright saying them. Like you have to find like a quirky way to say them in which now this is funnier because I found that flow, I found that rhythm. And that is something like there are jokes that I work on for months. Like it's like I know this is a funny premise. I'm going to write it down in my book, and then I'm going to keep trying to like figure out how can I say that? Cuz like sometimes what I think is funny, I'll say it out loud and people are like, "Okay." And then 3 months later I do the same premise, but it's like it's got that rhythm down and they're with me. So I do think that it's a lot of like working it out, and it's like the payoff in the end, probably it's like I worked all this time on these jokes and now I got $5 for reciting them to you all, but meh. I also got the joy of laughter.
Finding your flow, very important. I felt like actually I know I was finding my flow in Maryland. There was someone there was a gig right adjacent to Camden Yards where one of the other comics. It sounds like you're finding your voice, which is like the biggest compliment you could say, especially since I was only a couple years in. Moving to Los Angeles, that messed up my flow. I didn't have the same mindset, completely different audience, of
Yes.
course. And I just never got into the flow. And it became more like that camaraderie at Coco Lane. Like I said, I would go to an open mic and just stay all night and support. A lot of people in Los Angeles, they're trying to hit as many open mics as possible. They're
Yes.
rolling out to the next point. But I really enjoy supporting the other people and making a relationship of some sort with the other
Yes.
comics. So I was one of those that was there all night and it didn't have that feeling. It just kind of felt like I was trying to recreate that at the open mics. I was so yeah. If you move someplace else, hopefully you don't lose that flow that you're developing currently, because
Yeah.
I've fucking lost it. Just state of my and also my mental state got better. Some people are much better when they're a mental fucking wreck, and then when they get mentally well, their comedy suffers, and that was my case. Going to Los Angeles was good for my mental well-being, and my stand-up suffered.
Yes. And I totally understand that like 100%. Like, cause sometimes like I think that too. It's like I went through a divorce this past year. So like a lot of my material was like divorce based. Like I definitely felt like at times I was like, I was funnier when I was sadder. But it is just like I think that sometimes you have to find like your flow after you get better, like if that makes sense, like because it's like now okay, I can go back into it, I can do it. But I do think like for a while like I was doing comedy because it was an escape. Like I was like kind of in a marriage that like wasn't really working out, so I would go to all these open mics just like constantly. I lived at open mics, I lived with the people that went to these open mics, and I was like, we're all friends here, right? Like and I was just like a freaking absolute mess. And it was like a joke, like, oh, Kaelin's just running away from her sad marriage. Like that was like the joke. Like, and it was like, I was trying to just feel something because I was sad for a long time. So it's like I was trying to just be like, somebody likes me somewhere. Like, I don't know. So I do think that my material then was different. And it's like now I've found new ways to kind of like formulate it and how to just keep moving, even when maybe your life isn't a mess anymore. Because I do think that that's like a common thing with stand-up comedy, right? Is that like we're all kind of like mentally ill and weird, and like that's just who we are as people. So it's like, when you get better, how are you still funny?
Yeah, you meet. I felt like some anger at some people whose life were so together. Like, what the fuck are you doing here? You with your happy life? The
Yeah.
hell?
Yeah, I get that 100%. And I do think that because a lot of the time, like, you are finding comedy in your misery, and that's how you're staying happy, right? Because you're like, the only way that I'm not going to kill myself today is if I can make a fucking joke out of this. Like,
And
that's
as I said, my opener for a while was a suicide joke.
yes,
I,
yes. So
I had some suicidal thoughts. That's going to be the first thing right out of the box I'm going to tell you folks about in joke form.
yes. Yes. And I think that, like, I just found so many ways to, like, make fun of the situation that I was in and make fun of how it is. And it's like, now I can still make fun of the situation, coming out of a divorce, trying to date after you're coming out of a divorce. Like, people are awful. They were awful when you were 20, but just see how awful they are when you're in your early 30s. Like, it just
Oh
never.
yeah, like when you were a kid, didn't you think that adults knew what the fuck they were doing? And now you look around at the people your same age. Holy shit, the adults didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Yes, and, like, I think about that all the time because I am 33. I was like, my mother, when she was 33, had 3 freaking children that she took care of, and she had a full-time job, and she did all this stuff, and I'm like, look at me. I don't think I could take care of another human being at this point. Like, I
I've
just
yeah,
feel.
that's something that I've straight out just said. Like, no, I don't want children.
Yeah.
While I was out in Los Angeles, I got into the weird polyamory thing. I will absolutely date a mother, but please don't make me your primary partner. I will encourage you to find the right stepfather for your children and be an emotional support. And if I don't fit it, I fit in your life over here as
Yes.
an extra support, not the main support beam. I support you in your search for a main support beam. We actually that was another barfly friend, a lady that I was attracted to once I got into polyamory. I She was the next one I went to. I was like, because I didn't fit into her life as a primary partner, but we have fun together. I am very attracted to you. Hey, oh, and she had a don't ask, don't tell rule with her boyfriend. So it's like, all right, we're kind of doing the same thing here.
Yes. Yes. I have not entered that place yet. Maybe I should. Maybe that's where I lie. I don't know, but
It took me a year to wrap my mind around it. It's the jealousy thing that you really have to
yeah.
overcome, and yeah, that's something that now I absolutely encourage. I actually just was casually dating someone that she was being all nervous. So we're casually dating. I got this friend. We used to fool around. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that actually led to the end of us casually dating because it's like, how into me are you? I'm like,
Oh.
well, she actually reminded me a lot of a rocket scientist that I dated out in Los Angeles. Whereas the rocket scientist was also polyamorous, and we realized very early on, I'm not your forever guy. I'm your fun guy. So, yeah, seeing that in her and being able to relate that in my mind, you're intelligent, but you're not weird.
Yeah.
Like weird is what I am attracted to. When I see a certain type of crazy eyes, not all crazy eyes, but a certain type of crazy eyes. Oh, you remind me of the kinky nanny. I loved that kinky nanny. Are you like her? She was my favorite person to date of all time.
She was my favorite person to date, but not my favorite person to be a primary partner for, right?
She already had a primary. I
Okay.
absolutely would have been primary with the kinky nanny. She was like 98% perfect match for what I was looking for. She already had a primary, and she was actually my Jedi master. I was her Padawan in polyamory. So she actually broke up with me very abruptly, went to monogamy, and
Mm.
it was like Anakin going over to the Sith, and I've got this manual. What do I do with this manual? Everything I believed in, my master, it says is bullshit now, and I decided to keep the manual.
You kept the manual. You just
Yeah, I
kept
can,
rolling with it. I do
yeah,
feel like
because
that, like, you see that happening with polyamory a lot, is that like people open up their relationships and then they're like, maybe not. And it maybe is the fact that people just can't get over the initial jealousy, can't get over like, because I do wonder sometimes, like, how is it when your partner has another partner, but you don't have another partner? And then how does that like play into it? Unless, like, sexually it wasn't working because one has a higher sex drive or whatever. I do wonder, like, how, like, as a person, how would I feel if like I was just kind of like, you're the only person that I have because no one else likes me, and then they're like, well, I have like 17 partners.
and with couples opening up their marriage, some it works for, but I'm very wary about couples just opening up their marriage, because there's a lot that just need to end it. The relationship is on its deathbed. Just take the plug out, and they're just trying to artificially extend it by like,
Yeah.
well, we want to date other people. It's Yeah, someone out here in somewhere I was very attracted to, but they were just opening up their marriage, and it was like, let's
It's
not
a
go for
little
that.
scary. It's like being a bisexual lady trying to date a lesbian. They don't like that either. They get scared.
Actually, with bisexual people who were monogamous, I'm like, well, isn't that boring for you? You're only getting half of what you want.
It is and it isn't, because I will say, like, I am a bisexual lady, but I will also say, like, it gets like, I don't know, some like, it doesn't bother me as much like to just be with one person, as long as that person is like fulfilling what your needs are and what you have, like what you need. But then there's always that I don't know. I feel like women are scarier than men in general. That's just like, to hit on a woman is scarier than to hit on a man, because I feel like with a man, for the most part, like, like, okay, this person will either like me or they won't like me. I feel like the cues that they like you are a lot different. Because I also feel like with women, sometimes I think I'm getting a vibe, and then they're like, I'm straight. I just thought you were pretty. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Okay,
so
friends vibe, all right.
yeah, I guess that's what it's like to be like a man who gets friend zoned, Like, you're just like, I thought we were in love.
And I've actually find that I am much more okay being friend zoned than a lot of guys. Just going through my discovery as being a weird person who's into dating multiple people. Yeah, there's some ladies that don't fit in romantically at all. Who
Yeah.
actually I had trouble on like closing the deal, getting the number, getting that first kiss in, and it was someone who met on set and was like, all right, I'm going to close the deal. I am going to kiss her tonight, and we're going to go from there. And as we're talking, like the story she's telling me, she really needs a friend, and she would be extremely upset if I complete my goal for the night of leaning in to kiss her. It's like, okay,
Oh no.
call off the operation. This is going to flip her the fuck out if you
Yeah.
actually do complete your. I am going to kiss her. She does not want that. She is sending out all the flares. I need a friend. I don't need a romantic partner.
Yes.
And
I
he
think
actually
like,
became a good friend when I needed someone to talk to. Chanel, I hate women. Can I talk to you? And vice versa. Dylan, I hate men. Can you come
yes.
over?
Yes. And that's hard too, like having a friend of the opposite sex, because then you're trying to like feel out with them. Like, you're like, is this real? Is this a real friendship, or is this like a friendship where they're just kind of like laying in wait to see like when they can make their move? So like, that's always, and that may be why like someone says like, I just want a friend, please. I'm very very open to this.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I was ready to kiss her. I was attracted to her,
Yeah.
so I had to put up that wall. She was into jocks. Just this physically
It wasn't
wasn't
for
her type.
her. It
So
wasn't.
that was a wall. If she was ready to break it down, but it was like, nope, we must keep this brick wall intact.
And you weren't willing to like change yourself entirely for this woman? Is that what you're saying?
I'm. Did you ever watch Maria Bamford's show? She had an episode where she was dating a guy. She put on a very fake persona with one of her voices, and then when she let her real self out, the date was like, "Oh my God, no, that's horrific. Don't do that." So,
Yes, I can relate to that because I also feel like being a lady in stand-up comedy, obviously, like a lot of men are not into that. Like they're like, oh no, like that is not something that I want at all. So like I almost felt like my current partner is also a stand-up comedy person, and he saw all of my material. He knew all of my problems. He'd been at like bars after the open mic with me. He knew everything like going into it, that I was like a complete hot mess. So like I do think that that is different too. And men are also very afraid that you're going to use them in your stand up, which he was not. But like a lot of like men who are not stand up comedians don't really do that. My ex-husband was terrified of that. Like he wouldn't even listen to my stand up because he was like, I don't
no.
want to know.
And yeah, it's part of your life. It's something that it's like I want it to leak in. It's just something that I experienced that is ready to leak into my stand-up. Damn it.
Yes. So it's like something where it's like you almost have to like, and like it is like a permission thing, right? You have to be like, hey, are you okay with me sharing this story? And if they are, then great. And if they're not, then you're like, okay, I guess I'll keep it to myself. But for the bit, I want to do it. Like I want to do it so bad. But it is like, that is like such a hard line to teeter when you're doing it, is like, what do I share? What don't I share? Because I will share absolutely anything. But then there's also like the side of being a lady where you're like scared to share certain things because of like what the reaction will be, or how, like if people are going to be like, ew, that's gross, or like, why would she share that? Like, I used to have this one bit that I did. Like I have like names for all of my bits. And like my one bit was called Squirt Couch, and it was about me squirting all over someone's couch. Okay. Like I had this entire bit about it. And it's like, I kept doing it until like I would get like mixed reactions about it. Like some people would be like, this is fucking hilarious. And then other people would be like, why would you share that? And then I would get creepy dudes that come up after like, you squirt girl, what's up? And I'd be like, get away
from me. Like, no, to that guy. No, just a joke. I thought of it.
It's just a bit. It's just a bit. Like,
wasn't it great? Didn't I tell a great phony story there, sir?
Yeah. Like, it's like you do, as like you get such like weird reactions to it sometimes where it's like, do I want to keep telling this joke or not? And it's like, I would love to like work it back into my stand-up, but it's also just like trying to decide how I want to present when I'm up there.
And speaking about you presenting while you're up there, I do have your upcoming gigs here off to the side. You will be in Pennsylvania, Chicago, and you mentioned a Delaware that's been added since this list has come up. So,
so there is
throughout, getting to the Midwest. I was going to say all throughout the Mid-Atlantic, but a little bit of Chicago.
Yeah, well, I have two in Chicago now. Well, I have one 220 Chicago at that Zanies, and then I have another one on 221 the next day in Rosemont, Illinois, which is at the other location of Zanies. That's in Illinois. Then I have one this upcoming Friday, 22, and it's in Delaware at Dream Big venues. So it's like I'm getting around. Now, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be like, I'm getting around, because that
that's Kaelin the stripper coming back out, getting around.
Kaelin the stripper is coming back. She's getting around. Kaelin the hooker now, you know.
Be sure to see me at Zanies, followed up by the Wagon Wheel. I couldn't come up. What a hack I am! I couldn't come up with a good fake strip club name. I just had to go with the one I remembered that we mentioned in West Virginia earlier. That was my 21st birthday. They took me to the Wagon Wheel.
The Wagon Wheel. You can see me at Millstream. You know,
fully nude over in West Virginia. Not some of that bullshit topless only, where you got to bring in your own beers and then pay them to serve you your own beers. Fuck that.
That's totally fair. That is not something that you want.
So if you were in any of those areas, Hanover, PA, York, PA, Chicago, Illinois, Hagerstown, Maryland, Eldersburg, and what town in Delaware?
Delmar. Delmar in
Delmar,
Delaware.
Delaware. Kaelin will be coming up to all those in the near future, and yeah. As I said, my stand up, I have a tight 1 minute. It used to be my opener, and then after I was done with it, I think I have a little more time, which gets a laugh unto itself. But I like being with my tight 1 minute. It's borderline performance art. And what I actually really got into was kind of performance art, doing a dramatic reading of just terrible, dumb lyrics. Friday was one of them. There was a band called 303, I remember was
Yes.
part of them. They got into the dramatic reading of the lyrics, and my favorite of all, the celebrity rants.
Oh, good for you.
The Christian Bale rant took 5 minutes. So I've got a lot of open mics are 5-minute sets. So I've got 5 minutes to go through. We're doing Christian Bale the entire time. And to me, the audience discovering what it is, me doing my kind of stand-up, kind of performance art. And after a minute and a half, 2 minute realizing, oh, this is all it is. I actually did, when I returned one time to Coco Lane, I did a performance art piece. There was where I would tell the setup over and over again, and took for fucking ever to get to the punchline. There was one guy that was getting pissed. There was two people that absolutely loved it. Most of the audience just whatever. One guy was getting pissed.
Yeah.
And it was fucking lame. That was also the point, is that I've got this big buildup for something absolutely groan worthy. So
Yes.
I absolutely enjoy doing the performance art-esque, getting a little sprinkling a little Andy Kaufman into my stand-up comedy. And my tight 1 minute is very performance art-esque. And as I said, of like being part of a showcase with a bunch of people, throw me in the middle, especially if you got a bunch of people. Let me tell you about myself. Let me tell you about myself. Let me tell you about myself. That used to be my opener. Let me tell you about myself.
Yes.
So another thing, as I said, with analyzing of how you doing 8 times in a row, number 9, I'm not going to ask them how they're doing again. They're fucking tired of so having a bunch of let me tell you about myself in a row, bring me in with my fucking weird thing interlude for 1 minute to help snap them back into it for something completely different.
Yes. Ugh. I don't know. I feel like in the beginning, I remember being like, I used to do my first couple open mics. I used to do 3 minutes. I had 3-minute material, and then I would run off stage. Like that's something that I used to do. I would be like, that's all I have to tell you. Goodbye. And I would just like run off stage. And I feel like people thought that was the bit, but then other people were like, what is she doing? But I like didn't want to waste people's time. Like
I
if
love
I was
that,
like,
actually. Giving back, the comedians absolutely respect giving time back to the room.
yes.
So
yes.
being that you're sprinkling a little performance art. That's all I got.
Yeah, I was like,
I
hello,
do love
everyone.
that.
And I would just like run off stage. And I did that until I could do 5 minutes. And I remember the first show I ever got was 7 minutes. And I remembered like, they were like, you have 7 minutes. And then I'd be like, oh no, I can't do 7 minutes of time. I don't have 7 minutes. And it's like, I did have 7 minutes, but I remember being so terrified the first time that they asked me to do it. Cause I was like, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know. These people are going to think I'm terrible. Like,
finding, what's the longest I did? I think 15 minutes was the longest set I ever did. I don't think I ever had a 20. So what are you? What are your sets? Do you have a time for all those upcoming gigs? You got a 10, a 15, a feature at a 20?
Yeah, so most of mine are 15-minute sets. Most of the ones that were listed on that list. I think the one is the Church of Satire one. I think I have a 10-minute set that day because I'm hosting. So it's like 10 minutes and then, any little quips in between, you do it that way. But most of them were 15 to 20-minute sets.
Nice. Yeah, 15 minutes is where I topped out at. I never got to that 20 or 30-minute or headliner 45 minutes. And that is very intimidating to do your first 45.
Yes.
I didn't work my way up to that. I
So
tapped out. I went to the acting world, and they paid me for the day. Hooray!
yes, so like I absolutely like I tell people like when I'm reaching out to bookers, when I'm trying to like, put myself out there, sending my sets, doing that kind of stuff, I'm like I am not a headliner and I'm very honest about that. Like I don't have 45 minutes of material. I have a solid 15 to 20 that I can roll through. I have it, but I don't have 45 minutes of material. I don't have it. And I'm very honest about that. And like one of the bookers I was talking to was like, I appreciate like you being honest about that and you thinking like I could talk for an hour and a half. Like he's like, because I've had people do that before. And then it's absolutely like 20 solid minutes of material. And then the rest of it is just like nothing. Like they don't have really anything else to say. And I want my material to be good. I want people, I want people to respect it. I don't want people to feel like I'm babbling. So it definitely is one of those things where I'm like, I want a solid 40 minutes before I just volunteer myself to be thrown to the wolves.
The bookers definitely appreciate that self-awareness, and they'll remember that as you come back. And
Yes.
when you say you've got 30 minutes, they know, yeah, okay, she has 30 minutes. She was
Yeah.
straight up with me when she didn't have 30 minutes.
Yes. So it's like, because like the one guy was like, what are you hoping for from this connection? And I'm like, I'm just hoping that I can, get on someone. I am more of an opener, a feature. I am not someone who's here to be like, let me be the center of attention at all times. I mean, obviously, as a stand-up comic, you want to be the center of attention, but but like the beginning center of attention, not the main event.
I want to be the center of attention next to you're not the primary partner here in this comedy
I'm not.
polyamory.
I'm not a primary partner yet. I am, just like one of the hookups. I'm like, maybe one time we'll do it. It's fine.
You're the secondary. I keep saying side piece. I'm a great side piece. There is an act. I should know the vocabulary by now, being
Yes.
in that weird world for so long. But I
I'm
keep
a
calling it
great
side piece.
comedy side piece. Okay. I'll bring it in, but I'm not going to be your main event. You're not going to want to marry me. It's fine.
You saw what happened with the last marriage.
That's true.
Let's stay dating right now, and
Yes.
eventually maybe there's a comedy marriage upcoming. Let's not rush into it.
We're not rushing into it. We're just gonna say, I'll give it my best. I'll be a great comedy girlfriend. I don't know if I'm a comedy wife yet.
We shall see. If you're a lifetime middler, actually, there's a lot of people in Los Angeles that make a very good living from being the warm-up comic. Nicotaro, Greg Nicotaro, Frank Nicotaro. He it's like a campfire type feeling when you go to a show.
Yes.
But by the way, you can get minimum wage for showing up to like Celebrity Name Game. I showed up to a bunch of times, and that was a fun one. They screwed around just enough to have fun, but it was a well-oiled machine in getting things done. And Frank Nicotaro was the warm-up guy for that. And yeah, it was like a campfire type of camaraderie. He's the camp counselor telling us some stories. The opener for Steve Harvey, he's more of a hype man. Come on, get up and dance. Let's do our thing. We need some energy.
Yeah, being an opener is actually, I would say that's probably sometimes even harder than like being the end person, right? Because that crowd is cold sometimes when you walk out there, like especially if you're a host, if you're like one of the first people that go on, that crowd is just kind of like we're here, but we're not sure yet. Like, we're not sure what this is going to be like. So you have to like really like get them going, get them working. And that is a hard job. Like, cause it is hard, you know, if you're in a comedy club where people, they haven't drank yet, they're not loose, they're not like open to it. They're still trying to figure out, is everyone else laughing at this kind of humor? Is it okay to laugh at this humor? Like, what's happening here? And then by the end, like, you know, like second or third to the last, I do think that people are open. They're like, they're ready to go at that point. But that first person, if you are that first person going on, you're like, all right, I'm going to give them all I got, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
And I have started monitoring the chat as we are wrapping up. And Burrito Fan does say that Cleveland middles have got to be the worst. I was about to put over being a middler. I know it's the feature, but middler is just so much more funny to say. So
Yes.
Cleveland middles. Be careful about being a middle in Cleveland. And Ray DeVito Fan wanted to know if you like Ray DeVito by chance.
Ooh. I don't know Ray DeVito. I'm very sorry. I will look you up.
He's a Cleveland middler. Burrito Fan is jumping on the jokes at Ray DeVito, and he's quite the punching bag. Our boy Ray. I hope his stand-up is good. I shit on his stream all the time. I've got to give it another chance. Every time I've tuned into his live stream, I found it to be fucking unwatchable. But he's a very likable person. I hope that his stand-up is of a better quality than his live streams. I'll give him another chance. It's been months since I saw his live streams, so hopefully he's improved.
Does he have stand-up somewhere we can watch it?
I'm sure he does. He's got a Red Bar special, Dry Bar. Thank you, Dayla.
Dry Bar. Yep.
Yeah, he's got a Dry Bar special, so we can find out spending a couple of bucks over on Dry Bar, because very likable guy, but oh boy, that live stream is. I'll give it another chance. I may be unfairly shitting on him at this point. I'm grouping him in with the QF podcast people. Quite frankly, is a podcast of.
Someone just said it's not good. Oh no.
I
will make my own judgment call. I have a very hard time like shitting on other stand-up comedians, because I'm like, everyone, I don't want to yuck someone's yum. Everybody likes certain things. So like, for me, it's so hard to like shit on other people. Like, I'm like, I'll support you, whatever you're doing, unless it's like, you absolutely can't support it. Like whatever they're saying is like wrong.
like our buddy Walt that I mentioned before, who gets all of these and tells Greg Giraldo's fucking material while he's doing it. I imagine he's still not in the area. Oh boy, I perked up so much, as I mentioned at that Come Town episode. You remember Walt? Fuck yeah, I remember Walt. He ruined multiple shows that I've seen.
That's hard too. Like when you're on a ticket with someone who like they go before you and they just absolutely like fuck up the entire energy of the room, and then you have to get in there and like fix it. Oh, that is the worst. That's like the worst. Or there was like one stand-up comic that he does a lot of the local stuff, and he walked like 10 people right before I went on. Like 10 people stood up and walked out, and I was like, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Like, but it was too late, and it just was what it was. And they're like, we're not staying here for this. And I'm just like, oh, come on.
My first time doing stand-up, Florentine, there was people walking out as he was getting up on stage. Obviously, they just came to support somebody. They don't give a shit about stand-up. Oh, come on, guys. I didn't even get to the dick jokes yet. I love Florentine. I don't know if you've gotten into Jim Florentine. Actually, my favorite of anything he's ever done is terrorizing telemarketers. He used to fill out every application with his phone number for whatever the fuck, and just sit by the phone. And he was in one of those states that had one party consent. And so they would record it, him and his buddy Don Jameson, and release several albums of them just fucking with telemarketers. That I absolutely love the terrorizing telemarketers.
Yes.
Dela asks if you have favorite comics to work with, if there's someone you like to open for or go after, or if it's just fun being with the group there.
Yes. So Ashley Pontius, I don't know if you know who that is.
We've got a lot of mutual friends on Facebook. She wasn't on the scene when I was in Maryland, but I see her popping up a lot with people that I knew from the scene.
Yes, Ashley is freaking hilarious. She is such a cool person to work with. Tom Nutty, I think that like he's a super fun person. He's one of the people that like I kind of grew my comedy around. So like I really enjoy working with him. I opened for Rob Stant the other week, and he was really cool to work with. They're just like, he's like kind of quiet though. He kind of like just chills, but I don't know. There's a lot of people. There's just like, there's so many people that I've worked with and so many people. And I'm like, I'm probably not saying someone who's going to be like, thanks, Kaelin. Like, you're a dick. Like, I'm like, ugh. Like, cause I really like, yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm sorry. Cause it's like,
I'll mention you in the comments.
Yeah. Well, when you get into it, it's like you meet so many people, and you enjoy to be around so many people. So it's like, it is hard to like pinpoint who your favorite person to work with is. So I don't know.
I definitely enjoyed Eric Woodworth. It was such a phenomenal host.
Yes.
Gets the room up. He's got his guitar that he's got different songs. I know some people don't like the musical comedians, but I do enjoy the stylings of Eric Woodworth.
So,
and I've got to ask if he's the first time that I one of the jokes that I threw to the side, he was like, "Hey, can I use that?" And I was just like so proud. Ooh, yeah, that's like being a comedy writer. Yeah, keep on, do that material. I've got to ask if that's still in his rotation.
So I've never met him like in person, but like I've seen a lot of his stuff. I've gone to like shows that he's been on, but never been like worked with him personally. I have worked with Tommy though, and I thought that Tommy was such a cool guy too. Like he was just like real down to earth, real chill. Watching him just like off the cuff, like do his material, like it's so just well written and just like done. Like I don't know. I really enjoyed watching him when I had a show with him in December.
Tommy Simbazo flowed so well when I was on the scene a good 10 years ago. Shit, 13 going on 15 years ago now. God damn, I'm old. But he's only, I'm sure he's only improved because he had all the pieces in the right place at those points as well. And he is a super nerd. I see him 3D printing like Mandalorian nonsense. I think he's got like a suit of armor that he's working on. Super nerd. Definitely a big up to Tommy Simbazo. I think he was the best in the area when I was around, and he's still in the area. So if he's not number one, whoever took that number one spot is phenomenal because he's absolutely fantastic. Dom Herrera is a pretty big name.
Yeah,
I didn't work with Dom Herrera.
I'm pretty lowly, guys. I'm pretty low on the totem pole at this point in my career. Like, if we can even call it a career, because I'm still working a daytime job and trying to survive. So,
a lot of people working a daytime job call it a career. Like Tom Myers. This community knows all about Tom Myers. I have like 50 mutual Facebook friends with him. I never met him, but in this community, he is known as the most unfunniest comedian on the world. And he does not like that moniker at all. Poor Tom, but he doesn't structure a joke well at all, and he keeps going at it. You can tell that he was inspired by Politically Incorrect, and Bill Maher is what he's going for. There was someone on the scene back years ago, Mike Finazzo. You could definitely tell that Louis C.K. was his number one because there was so much of his style pattern after Louis C.K. You can kind of see that in people. When I had a friend out in Los Angeles that had the stage fright. I'm like, okay, I think you got some material to help you develop this. Who are your absolute favorites? Identify those. And I've kind of said, along with comedy writer, I could be a comedy coach. Like comedy teacher, I don't like that, but coach is kind of the same thing of like, here, let me just push you in the correct direction. Once you identify your top three of all time, and I used to say, take out Carlin and Richard Pryor, because that used to be everyone's number one and number two, but the kids don't seem to be as familiar with them. They don't list them like everyone used to. That used to be number one and number two for absolutely everybody. Carlin especially was good at everything.
Yes.
At wordplay, at introspection, at hippy dippy stuff. So that doesn't help you zero in on what your style could be. As like Andy Kaufman, I say is one of my influences, and it absolutely shows in my weird ass material, bordering on stand up and bordering on performance art.
Yes. I don't even know. Like when people ask me that, they're like, "Who are you like?" And it's like, I don't know who I'm like. Like I'm me. I don't know. And it's, I guess like someone would have to watch me and kind of tell me. It's like I obviously, well, not obviously, but like when I started stand up, like I really like John Mulaney, who writes like in kind of story format. Taylor Tomlinson, same kind of deal, like that kind of way. But I don't know who I'm modeled after or who I'm like. I just know that I'm me. That's how I describe it.
Jim Norton is another one that I think he's just out of my top three, definitely top five. I love how he is just unabashedly honest with his debauchery and like my weird romantic stuff. I right up front will come out and say, I'm a weird polyamorous fellow who likes kink. So hello world. And some people, that's a bit too much for him. So that's why Jim Norton, I'm like, I could kind of throw Jim Norton in that arena of top people who you could, not currently, as I said, just pure performance art. I like my tight 1 minute. I haven't been working on anything
1 minute
beyond my tight 1 minute.
You can open for my 15 minutes with your tight 1 minute. Shortest, it'll be the shortest show ever.
As I said, I'm a showcase guy. When there's a bunch of fucking people, it's nice to have a little interlude of something completely different. Coming out of the box, sure, you could throw me there, but yeah, it was really designed to be in the middle of a showcase of here's your interlude. It's comedy, but it's different than what all these other people are doing here.
Yes. Which can be good. Like it can be good to like be different from what everyone else is doing and be like stand you apart from it. Because it's like, it's also awful when like you have a premise for a joke or a joke you've been telling for a while, and then the person that goes before you tells a joke that's very similar, and then you're like, oh, like, do I still tell that joke? Do I still do it? Do I comment on it? Do I make a comment about like, oh, this person said this and now I'm going to say this? Or like, do you just like abandon that joke?
Yeah, that's really your two options they were talking about, I've got something to add, or just, nope, not tonight. Let's scratch that out of the mix.
Yes.
And one more time, there are Kaelin's upcoming gigs. And I am going to let you get out of here soon. I do have a stream after this where I will be talking about Arkham City with Annie, the review girl from Who Are These Podcasts. Thank you, Annie O'Ryan, for getting that. I have got a Discord right here. Any other plugs you would like to get in beyond the shows upcoming in February?
All right. And then the ones that are 2-2 is Delaware, and then 221 is Rosemont, Illinois. I know that's not on that poster. I haven't redone it yet.
And for those who have a visual problem, that is, well, let's give that a little full screen. If you are legally blind, with York, PA on the 16th, Hanover, PA on the 17th, Chicago, Illinois, 20 and 21st. Well, Rosemont on the 21st, Hagerstown the 23rd, Eldersburg, Maryland. Eldersburg.
I know.
Let's not start up on another rant. We're wrapping up.
And you
good
can
old
follow
Eldersburg, Maryland.
me. Yeah, and you can follow me on Instagram at Kaelin Does Comedy. So that
Kaelin Does Comedy, and that is
Kaelin Does Comedy.
Kaelin Does Comedy on Instagram.
Yep, and then that's where I post all my shows and any content that I do share that is probably not my jokes, because I don't want everyone to hear them and be sick of me by the time they see me.
Which is wise. Here is a random collection of entertaining thoughts, not my material. That's for the stage, so I don't kill it.
Yes.
So you have something to laugh at instead of being like, heard it.
Yeah, we get it. Don't you have anything else to say, lady?
No,
I don't.
You've heard it all. I messed up. I put it out there too soon.
Yeah, I'm already washed up at 2 years in.
Well, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for joining in the chat. And now feel free to go away.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. It's fun being with friends. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye for now.
Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day.
Places all. All join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LSMFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gate. To right to your honey with the right left date. Grand right and left around you go. Lucky strike means fine tobacco. Meet your honey and give her a whirl. All swing around with the little girls. Smoke 'em, then you'll see. LSMFT. Promenade and don't you fall. Promenade around the hall. Lucky strike is first again with tobacco men. Promenade straight down the pike. It's time right now for a lucky strike. Yes, for smoking that you're bound to like, you just can't beat a lucky strike.